Today I thought I would film a Q&A because I haven't done one of these in probably a few months now, and I was going to have a sit down catch up with you, but then I thought, I might as well do a Q&A because I haven't done one of these in a while. So I asked on my Instagram if you guys had any questions, and I got a few in, and also on YouTube too. So I'm gonna get going. So the first one is, how is your new job going? Hope it is all going really well. Thank you. Very sadly, I had to leave the new part-time job at the cafe because my allergies are so severe that when I was in that environment and when it's really, really busy and we are steaming the milk, so the dairy milk, and it's in the environment, I find it really difficult to breathe because my allergies are airborne. So whenever that milk is, the word is aerosolized, and whenever that happens, that is in the environment, and then I'm obviously breathing that in, and my chest becomes really tight, my heart sometimes races a lot, and I just find it really difficult to breathe. And then I would also come in, and within minutes my hands and arms would be covered in hives and swollen, like my arms were out here. My hands were covered in hives from handling the pastries, which had nuts on, and obviously dairy and eggs in too. So I gave it a good few days, and then I was just like, do you know what? I just can't do it. Like my body isn't up to it, and there's no point in me tholing it just for a job, even though I loved it. I absolutely loved the environment. The owner is so lovely, the team are also lovely, and all the customers too. Such a nice vibe in there, and I really enjoyed it, and it gave me, I have to focus on the positives, so it gave me like social connections because I was always having conversations with new people or with the team. It gave me like a set cut-off point, so when I'd finish my day of work there, I could come home and relax or do whatever I wanted to do and just relax, and I knew after 2 p.m. that time was mine. Whereas like I think when you work for yourself, you can always feel like you have to be working and there's no set structure to the day. I was really good when I was running Lily's Loaf because I had such a routine in place, like Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. I knew exactly what I'd be doing from like 4:30 or 5 in the morning till 1 or 2. I knew what I was doing on each day, and it worked out really well, and I feel like I really thrive on that sort of structure. So the cafe job was great for that. Getting out, meeting other people, having all sorts of conversations, and just being in a different environment rather than just home for work. So that was great. But yeah, I very sadly had to leave because I just can't do it. Next question is, what's your favourite baked good to make? What is my favourite baked good to make? Do you know what? It would probably be something really simple like an apple crumble. So if I've got my family coming over, or if I'm hosting friends for like Sunday lunch or a dinner, it would probably be something like an apple crumble because I feel like you can't go wrong with that. Other than that, probably a loaf of homemade bread, especially if you haven't made sourdough in a while and then you pull that out of the oven and it's worked really well. There's nothing quite like it. Opening up that loaf of bread and trying the first bite, and yeah, it's magic. It really is magic when it works out well. Okay. Right, somebody's asked, not to get too personal, but what is your love life like? Are you dating? This is funny. Okay, so I was dating. So I'm currently single. I've been single for quite a while actually, and I've always been very like happily single. I'm very independent, I've got my own life. And because I was focusing on my business so much and just working crazy unsocial baking hours, or like working as a baker, Having to go to bed pretty early, not being able to go out in the evenings that much. I was just focusing on my business the past 4 years, basically, so I didn't really have that much time for dating. And I was also very against dating apps. Like, I just could not get my head around them. I downloaded the app and then I delete them the next day. I just found them so cringy, and I'm such an old romantic that I just really wanted to meet someone in real life, and I just wanted someone to ask me out, and just have that like old romantic story, fairy tale. But it's sadly not the way of the world anymore, and I was just like, come on Lily, you gotta give it another go. So yeah, it was actually a pretty big step for me to download the apps back in like April time, I think. That's when I started dating again. And I went on a few dates with one guy, and then I've been on a few dates with a few other guys too. So yeah, nothing serious, but yeah, I guess I've just kind of been getting my confidence back in terms of dating. And yeah, it's just like a whole other muscle that you have to flex if you haven't done it in a while. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but yeah, it's just very odd, like the whole online dating scene, and it doesn't come naturally to me. Like, in an ideal world, I would just love for someone lovely to ask me out in real life, maybe like a friend of a friend, or maybe I met someone at an event or something and then they would just ask me out, but it just doesn't seem to be the case for me. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it's going. I haven't been on a date in 2 or 3 weeks maybe. But yeah, I tend to go for like coffee dates first thing because I feel like they're nice and relaxed, and it's daytime. You can see if you vibe with the other person. And yeah, I've had a few funny stories from like the dates that I've been on, which is always kind of entertaining. And I always like telling my friends about it. But yeah, for a long time I wasn't dating at all. And I think, yeah, it's just shown me that it's not really that deep, and, just go out there, have fun, and see how it goes. Always try a second date as well. Like, if they ask you out on a second date, I think that's always a good idea to try, because you might both be so nervous. I know I'm so nervous on like a first date, and you're just not that relaxed. So yeah, second date's always a good idea, unless it was an awful first date. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So still single. I will probably go out on a few more dates whenever that arises. So the next question is, I've been meaning to do this, but I was too shy to ask. Hey Lily, I hope you're doing well these days. My question is this. I wanted to ask you, what were the top 3 challenges you faced or encountered as a micro business owner? What are the challenges that you have experienced or that you see other small business owners experience in running a small business? I ask as I'm interested in reaching out to social enterprises in the UK and EU to see if I can offer my services there, but I thought to ask first. I watched your vlog on closing down your micro bakery after watching you since your channel started, but I wanted to know more. Okay, so top 3 challenges I faced as a micro business owner. I'll start off with that. Top 3 challenges that I faced. Okay. Number 1 challenge, I would say just like the sheer amount of work that's involved when you run a business. Like, there's so many things that go on behind the scenes, all of the admin that's involved. So like, say if you're taking on even one member of staff, there's so much admin and responsibility in taking that on, getting the starter form set up for them, doing their payroll every week or every month, depending on how frequently they're paid for you. Yeah, all of the admin that goes on behind the scenes, like contacting customers, say if customers were away but they had weekly deliveries, changing that, pausing their deliveries. What else? Keeping track of finances, making sure that you're doing well each month, and if you haven't done as well, why? So checking in with that. So I would say number one, staying on top of admin as well as running the business and like doing all of the baking and social side of things. So it's just kind of like wearing many different hats, spinning many different plates. It takes up 90% of your brain capacity, or it took up 90% of my brain capacity, and I felt like I could never really have a break, or I never really allowed myself the break. I don't really know why. I think it was because I genuinely loved it so much and I couldn't see myself doing anything else, and I was working towards the shop for so many years that I never really allowed myself a full break, or a day would never go by where I wasn't thinking about it or where I could do something for it. So yeah, I would just say like it takes up your entire life basically. So I'd say that was number one challenge. Another challenge I faced personally was being somebody's boss. So it's not something that comes naturally. I've never been somebody's boss before, and I am not one to really confront situations. I'm better at doing that now because I've learned over several experiences in my life that it's important for me to use my voice and to voice certain issues that I might have or little niggles. Like I always feel it in my heart, and I know if I feel it here or if I feel any sort of anxiety bubbling up, or it feels like a little pebble for me, I know I have to voice that pretty early on. So I found being somebody's boss pretty challenging, especially if they were crossing the line, if they weren't turning up on time, if they were wasting time, especially if they were on an hourly rate. You know, if I found them somewhere where they weren't meant to be, and also hearing from other business owners too that they were wasting time. So yeah, I found that really difficult. And then thirdly, I'd say the next biggest challenge I faced was probably taking on the lease. So it was my first experience taking that on. Yes, I had seen so many other properties for about a year and a half before my proposal was accepted for this one site in southwest London. But going through all of the various stages, the legal side of things, not really fully knowing what my rights were as a tenant, all of the funding that would have had to have been involved in setting up a shop as well. I know there's crowdfunding, and that was something that I was considering doing. But yeah, I would say all of the costs, the legal side of things, and taking on a shop, that was really, really challenging to me because it was the first time that I was going through it and I was learning as I went along. So I would say inexperience and maybe probably a lack of support to an extent because I was doing it all alone. And yes, I had the support of my family who I could talk to and chew their ear off about all of these things every single day. But I would say lack of support maybe within a community, or just like as a small business owner, I feel like there aren't really that many support networks when you're doing this. So yeah, I would say those would be my top 3 challenges that I face. So number 1, admin, keeping on top of things. Number 2, being somebody's boss. And number 3, taking on the lease. And if you want to know the 4th one, I would say always like finding that balance between growing your business and being self-funded. So everything, whenever I was growing the business, so whenever I needed a new piece of equipment, I would always reinvest the profits that I made from the business into building it and growing it. So everything that I did was initially from my own savings, and then from any money that I made or the business made basically would go back into the business. So yeah, like balancing whether you wanted to grow. So like say when I got the bike, I obviously wanted to grow the business, but at the same time it was a big cost financially to invest in the bike. So it's like always a constant juggle. And then what are the challenges that you have experienced or that you see other small so other challenges that I see other small business owners experience are things like costing, maybe not pricing your products high enough and not getting enough back in return, especially in the food industry. I see burnout being a big challenge. That was obviously a big challenge for me, and ultimately pushed me to close my micro bakery because I was so exhausted after push for 4 years, well, almost 4 years. And yeah, at some point the body's just gonna give in. So yeah, I see burnout as a big thing. I see some sort of like scarcity mindset, like if you stop, the business will stop or fail. A lot of responsibility on your shoulders. Yeah, all of these sorts of things. So I hope that answered your question. The next question is, hi Lily, I hope you're doing well. Here is my question. What is the main advice you would give to a first-time baker? Let's imagine I start as a home baker and then I decide to embark on a business. I would say start slow. I would still continue your job on the side and maybe see this as a side hustle that you can maybe try out once on the weekend or every few weekends. Maybe if you wanted to start selling at farmers markets, you could have like a small offering and see how you go. Start with maybe 1 or 2 products, keep it really, really simple. Focus on the products that you really enjoy making, and yeah, just start slow, see if it works for you, see if you like the baker lifestyle, because it is a whole thing, getting your body used to waking up super early, going to bed super early, and yeah, just see if you enjoy it. That is the main thing, 100% the main thing. Next question is, how is Bobby? So if you guys don't know, Bobby is my dog, my 4-year-old angel Cavapoo, and probably, well, it's coming up to maybe 3 weeks now. On Friday, she was very sadly attacked by another dog, and it was just me and her out walking, normal local park where we normally walk every single day, and she was off the lead. Another dog had taken her ball, and so she didn't have a ball, so she was like running around on the field and came across a Staffy, so a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and the Staffy had like this squishy toy or a ball. I think it was a squishy toy, and Bobby went to say hello to the Staffy and then tried to nick the squishy toy. As soon as that happened, the Staffy locked jaws on Bobby's ear and face, and Bobby was screaming. I started screaming because I was panicking. I ran straight over. I wasn't that far, thank God. But the Staffy basically got both her ears in the attack and then locked on one side for about 2 or 3 minutes. I couldn't do anything because had I pulled her away, her entire ear would have ripped off. The Staffy's owner was just shouting at his dog, not really doing that much. The Staffy wouldn't let go, and it was honestly terrifying. It was really awful because Bobby was clearly in so much pain. She was screaming. All I could do was just be like, it's okay, Bobby, it's okay, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay. And I was literally like this. As soon as the staffy let go after 2 or 3 minutes, I was shaking so much because the adrenaline was pumping. I was in shock. As soon as the staffy let go, I picked up Bobby, and the owner was semi-apologetic. He was like, sorry, I've been trying to train my dog out of being so possessive with her toy. But like, the vets told me that sort of a dog shouldn't be let off the lead if it's doing that, and it should be muzzled as well because it could be put down if it continues to attack like that. So I picked up Bobby and I took her straight to the vets, and she had bloody ears and also nicked her eye, so it scratched her eye. Thank God she's okay. She had to have a scan, she had to have a blood test, so like they shaved her sides to see if she had internal bleeding. Thank God she's okay. I think because she's like quite a fluffy dog, she's half poodle, that kind of protected her. And from what I could see, I think to begin with, the other dog, it was like that on her, so that's why it got both sides. But I think because didn't like pull her or start doing huge movements, it just locked in one place. I think the damage wasn't that bad, but she definitely has like a part of her ear out, like it ripped part of her ear. And it got her eye as well. So yeah, thank God she's okay. I think, she's wagging her tail, she's happy to see other dogs, but I think it's affected me more than her. Like the day off or the day of and the day after, I was very, very, very emotional about it. And yeah, I just kept on replaying the event, but she's okay, thank God. I just have to be a bit braver with letting her off the lead and maybe continue training with her for her recall so that she doesn't go after other dogs' balls, especially if they look a bit dangerous. So yeah, thank you for asking, but she's amazing, and yeah, I just love her so much. But it was really awful, and it's just shown how lucky I've been with her these past 4 years. So the next question is, how do you know how much to measure when you're making 10 loaves of sourdough? So this is actually where one of my online products might come and help you. So I've created the Ultimate Micro Bakery Spreadsheet Bundle. And in one of the spreadsheets, you have a calculator. So you put in your normal recipe, and then say if you want to make 10 sourdough, like you say, or 20, it automatically calculates how much flour, how much water, how much starter, salt that you need for your recipe. So it just scales it up. So yeah, I'll leave that link down below because that might be very helpful for you. And then in terms of measuring everything out, I would use a big bulk container and measure everything out separately and do it that way. Next question is, how can I finance a micro bakery without a loan? What tips do you have for someone on a self-learning journey to master skills? And what free resources helped you learn before you open your business? Okay, so in terms of financing a micro bakery, so personally, I finance my micro bakery from my own savings. So from previous jobs that I'd worked, I had some savings, and I think what you've got to remember as well is what you see on my social media was over the course of almost 4 years. So I grew the business very, very slowly and steadily, and as the business grew, I was able to invest in more pieces of equipment. So I started off with my home oven, I then invested in my little baby Rothko oven, and then eventually my Rackmaster RM2020. So I grew it very slowly, and yeah, I think that was key to my success when I was running the business. I never took out a loan. It was all self-invested, self-funded. Whenever you operate from home as well, your costs are significantly lower. So because I was operating out of my home kitchen, that meant that I didn't have to pay rent or take on those extra costs to begin with. I think that really is the beauty of a micro bakery, because you can work from home depending on where you're based, because I know in certain countries they don't allow you to run a food business from home, but in places like the States, in the UK, definitely, maybe Australia too, or maybe not Australia. I know in the States, maybe Canada and the UK, you definitely can run a food business from home as long as you're registered with your local council or your local state. So I would say start slow. Focus on the product that you want to make and build your business model around that. So say, for example, you want to focus on cookies, maybe invest in a small convection oven. You might not even need a mixer, but yeah, really focus on like one or two products and build your equipment and your micro bakery around that. And what free resources helped me learn? Do you know what? I listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of business podcasts, but this was all whilst I was running the business. So I didn't really lean on many free resources before I started. I looked to Kitty Tate for a lot of inspiration. I read an article about her in the Times before I opened my micro bakery and was really, really inspired by her.